The next Lee and Ian podcast is approaching the station. Please step aside.
And welcome to the Lee and Ian Show. I'm Lee Navlin.
And I'm Ian Grodman.
The Lee and Ian Show is sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation. Remember, when it comes to divorce, family first, your children first. Mediation, it's the way to go. Grodman Law and Mediation.
Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome, Ian. And if you want to know what I'm doing,
I do want to know.
I am writing books when I'm not recording a podcast.
I know you are.
Very busy guy. And
You
I
are.
And I actually have my own website.
I know. Tell us about it.
It's called LeeNavlinBooks.com.
Oh,
So
very
go to-
creative.
Thank you. Yes, it's named after me.
Yeah.
LeeNavlinBooks.com. Go to LeeNavlinBooks.com and you can find all my books.
They're
two
all
of them.
great.
They're all great. Thank you very much for saying that. I agree with you. I think I wrote some good books too.
I agree.
So thank you very much, Ian. LeeNavlinBooks.com and Grodman Law and Mediation. That's who we are. All right, everyone. We're tackling the incredibly critical and complex topic of the war in Iran today. Joining us to cut through the noise and offer her expert perspective is a sharp Democratic strategist, a seasoned political commentator. You've seen her work on Fox News, CNBC, MS NOW, and CNN. She's also the founder of Lift Our Voices. We're thrilled to welcome Julie Roginsky to the Lee and Ian Show. Hello,
Welcome,
Julie.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you.
Julie, there's so much we want to talk to you about, but first, Iran.
Right.
It's what we're all talking about. It's what we're all concerned about. Me personally, I think we all can agree that Iran has been a bad actor, to say the least, for decades. They export terrorism, the destruction of Israel they want, the death to the United States. But the Trump administration has decided, along with Netanyahu, to pretty much seemingly try to finish Iran off, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard off. Your thoughts on what's going on right now?
With no plan beyond that.
Right. What's going well? What's not going well, Julie?
I have no idea what's going well, you guys. I mean, maybe you know, but I don't know what we're doing. Like, I don't even think it's a question of, like, I guess what's going well is our military is performing as they've been told to perform, but I don't know what the political angle here is, right? Like, we could always count on the United States military to do its job, but I don't remember the last time we had a war, and this is a war, despite whatever Congress wants to believe, which is illegally waged because only Congress has the right to declare it.
That's right.
When was the last time we had any kind of political solution to these kinds of situations, right? We were stuck in the quagmire of Iraq for 20 years. We were stuck in the quagmire of Afghanistan for 20 years. I'm a little too young for Vietnam, but that lasted a few decades from when we started sending quote unquote advisors in to when we finally pulled out. I guess Operation Desert Storm back when I was in high school was the last time we went in, did something and left. But what exactly did we do? We kept Saddam Hussein in to, live another decade or two until we decided to take him out. So I think for all those reasons, it's not clear to me what we're doing over there. And I don't think the president's even bothered telling us what we're doing over there.
If the president even exactly knows what he's doing.
Well, I don't even think he does know. I mean,
either.
I don't even think, I don't know who knows.
Yep.
I tend to think that he thinks that this is, we can go in, do what we want, kill all the people we want, leave the government in shambles, and just decide.
And then he's done.
He's done. And, what was it, Colin Powell, who said, you break it, you own it?
The Pottery Barn rules, sure.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he subscribes to those rules, but what's the worst case scenario, Julie, in your mind? What can happen here? People, I think, especially right now, a lot of people they see that we've taken out the leadership quickly. The bombs are we took out a ship. I mean, some people say, well, boy, America, we're tough. Don't mess with us. But what's the worst thing that can happen here in your mind?
The worst thing that could happen here is that you have a radicalized Iran that is going to continue to export mischief all over the Middle East, that is going to continue to target our allies in the Middle East, that is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, that is going to send people here to our homeland here to create terror events here, like 9/11. And we have a White House that has gotten rid of Iran experts at the FBI. It has cut the CIA by 1,200 personnel and by thousands more for other intelligence agencies and other national security agencies. You have people who were supposed to be focused on counterintelligence who've been redeployed to focus on getting Trump's quotas filled at the border. And so our priorities were totally out of whack. And the worst case scenario is that we are sitting ducks and a lot less safe today than we were a week ago.
Julie, I do research, by the way, before I go to our podcast, just so you know, I pride myself on it. But so I did a little research on you, and Julie, I saw that you were born in Moscow, which I did not know. Your parents were Soviet dissidents of Jewish descent. I'm sure in your life you've experienced anti-Semitism. The reason I mention all this is because I have many Jewish friends that feel this war is the right thing to do because they fear Iran is out to annihilate Israel. It's obviously a very difficult topic to discuss with Jewish people, Jewish Americans. I understand why. But what are you saying to your Jewish family and your Jewish friends? What are your thoughts on this?
Good question, Lee.
What would you say to these people that are
I'm going to
obviously?
tell you, I don't need to talk to my Jewish family and my Jewish friends. I spoke to my cousins in Israel who've been there for generations and are the most committed Israelis you could find, and they're not clear as to why the hell this is all happening. I was in Israel last June. And literally the day we got to our hotel in Tel Aviv, that night was when Iran launched the ballistic missiles the last time.
Oh, wow.
And the first time it had ever happened. And we lived through that for days until we finally had to find our own way out of the country because the airspace had been shut down. And all of that was unclear to me as to exactly what that was for. Now, Trump, on the one hand, said it was done last summer because he, quote unquote, obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. On the other hand, he said we have to do this action now to obliterate Iran's nuclear facilities. So which is it, right?
Right.
Look, I don't mind. I'm not weeping. I don't think anybody on earth should be weeping for the death of the Ayatollah and for his regime. Like, they're some of the worst people on earth, and I'm not sad that they're gone. What I want to know is what's the plan? And to me, there is no plan. And you could sit there and high five each other that our military was able to do this, and our military was able to get these supposed enemies in the United States, or not supposed, they are enemies in the United States, off the face of this earth, and that's great. But what's the plan? And are we any more safe, or are we less safe as a result of this? And it's not clear to me that we are more safe.
Right.
It's not. And I'm not sure. Look, who's next, right? Like who's up behind him? Because right now you have news coming out today, and whether he lives to see this happen or not is a different story. But that Ayatollah's son is going to be potentially the next head of Iran. Well, if that's the case, if he's going to be the next spiritual leader, if that's the case, that man is just as bad as his father, but even more radicalized now, if that's even possible, because he just saw his father die, his mother die, his wife die, and one of his children die.
I think to your point before also, Julie, something that really sticks with me is, that there is no plan, right? That we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what's going to happen next. And, just a couple of days before this initial attack, when the war started, because it is a war, the FBI let go of all of the Iran experts, in the FBI, just literally days before this attack. And it's just unbelievable.
I mean, let's put this in even more perspective. Within a week of when this all began, the head of the FBI was pounding beer in Milan with the men's hockey team.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you might want to say that, it was a cute moment. Nothing cute about that, especially a week later. We're bombing a country to smithereens. I agree with you 100%. Now, Julie, you were at Fox News. I was at Fox News. Our defense secretary was the weekend weekend anchor on Fox and Friends.
I knew Pete well, and I'm sure you did too. I mean, I have pictures of me partying with Pete. So yeah, I mean,
having a drink, but this is the guy,
the war secretary.
The war secretary. This is the guy calling the shots right now. Is it a possibility that they don't know what they're doing, and Trump is actually listening to them? It's not the other way around.
Yes, that is a possibility.
I mean, listen. If Pete Hegseth is the one running the program right now, we should all be scared. And I say that as somebody who knew Pete well. when I worked with him at Fox. I don't know if you did, but I knew Pete quite well, and Pete is not equipped to have any kind of grace under pressure. He's just not. So that's one.
Well, he's proven that over and over again this
Right.
year.
Yeah. That's one. Two, I don't know who the president is listening to. I suspect he's probably listening to Jared Kushner.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect he's probably listening to Steve Witkoff. I
Yep.
suspect he's listening to the Saudis. I suspect he's listening to Benjamin Netanyahu. I suspect he's listening to other of our allies in the Middle East. And what I would say to you is, we are fighting the wars for other people. For instance, Saudi Arabia has had us fight wars for them going back to 1991,
Mm-hmm.
going back to Desert Storm. And this is the same Saudi Arabia who decapitates green card holders
That's right.
with bone saws. The same Saudi Arabia that had 10 of its nationals, 9 of its nationals be on those planes flying into the World Trade Center. The same Saudi Arabia who gave Jared Kushner $2 billion. We don't know what for, but I guess we do now. And is trying to sports wash its reputation and otherwise, behaves abominably to its own people. And yet it is American blood and treasure that is being spilled right now because the Saudis, because Mohammed bin Salman wanted to take out his country's ancient Shia enemies. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, understand that all of this has ramifications.
Right.
All of this has ramifications.
Julie, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say is it has not been thought through. I think the charitable way to put this, right?
Yeah.
That is charitable.
Yeah, Julie, now I read the New York Post because it's got the best sports page in town, by the way. But
My husband, man, he loves the New York Post for that reason. I'm like, why are you subscribing to the Post? And he's like, it's the best sports page ever. That's why.
If you want to know what's going on with the New York Jets, you got to read the Post. But unfortunately, I do sometimes flip ahead to the op-ed section. And reading the New York Post op-ed just recently, within the last day or so, they're indicating that they think that maybe Israel and Saudi Arabia, the Abraham Accord, the idea was these countries would be some type of partnership, you become allies of sorts, and do you buy that argument that they could become some type of partner, Israel and Saudi Arabia, and that would be the worst thing for Iran? I read that. I was, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, Israel and Saudi Arabia, I think, have all the reasons in the world why they would have the Abraham Accord, why there might be an Abraham Accords 2 with Saudi Arabia and Israel. I mean, they've been talking about that for a while. It was about to happen before October 7th when Hamas got wind of it. And that's why one of the reasons people think that Hamas launched the attack that it did on October 7th was to prevent some kind of deal between Israel and Hamas. Between Israel and Saudi Arabia. But look, all of these things are important as matters of foreign policy. And would it be nice for the Israelis and the Saudis to have some sort of, finally have some sort of diplomatic relations? Sure. But at the cost of us launching an illegal war against Iran? I don't think so. I mean, I just want to remind people that we had a nuclear deal with Iran that, according to nuclear watchdogs, Iran was abiding by until Trump decided to blow it up in his first term. Just because Obama negotiated it.
Julie,
and my understanding from what everybody's been saying, including these nuclear watchdogs and others, including people who were in negotiations as of last week, the Iranians were willing to do a lot more than that. And Trump decided to kill them anyway. Yeah. So that's where we are. I'm not suggesting we should pity the Iranian regime. We should not. But I would also say that we should have had a plan for what happens the day after we kill them all. And I don't even think that there's a plan for what happens the day, not only for the day after we killed them all, but also he's not even sure, Trump, who we're killing, because he said, all the people we thought of who could potentially lead the country, they're now dead too. Well, at whose hands? Ours, the Israelis? If it's the Israelis, why are we telling them to continue doing it?
Julie, the Democrats right now, as we speak, I mean, I guess they're in session, or they're talking in the War Powers Act, and we've got to restrain the president. We got to right now, and Ian and I were talking about this shortly before we went to air. Is it too late to tell Trump and the United States, now you got to pull out of there? I mean, you broke it, you own it. What would the world say if the United States just said goodbye? I mean, is that even something fathomable now?
I think that the White House does not want a debate on these issues. And the thing is, I think it probably would pass. I mean, narrowly, but I think there are enough Democrats who might vote for this war with Iran.
To move forward with it.
I mean, it would just be a very painful discussion that would take place over the course of many, many months.
Right.
Weeks. And the president doesn't want to have his hands tied about this, and he doesn't want to admit that it's a war. And I think that's the problem that we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Julie, someone said, well, you have to ask her, is this an Epstein cover-up? I've never been a big fan of the Epstein cover-up thing, but this, what are your thoughts on that? You're a Washington insider. Do people really believe this could be all about that?
Sure. Because what was in the news 24/7 before this began?
That's right.
Epstein. What was Donald Trump getting more and more upset about? That suddenly you had the Epstein files, unredacted files that members of Congress had seen, pointing to the fact that he was involved in some of this abuse of young girls. I don't know if it's true or not, but it was certainly a topic of discussion. And that's not a topic of discussion you want to be having if you're president. Suddenly, we're not talking about that as much anymore.
That's right. Because in the days just before this,
it's Wag the Dog. Remember that old movie from the 90s?
Yep.
It's Wag the Dog. I mean, we're just changing the subject here.
That's
and literally just days before, there were a lot more specific allegations about a young girl in particular that were coming out, and then all of a sudden there's an attack on Iran. So
two young girls, actually.
I was only aware of one of them.
Yeah. And so I think it's something to consider. Certainly his own base believes that's true. I mean, when you have people like Nick Fuentes, who is a reprehensible, anti-Semitic, racist, misogynist, incel person who, thinks that there's something to admire about Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, saying, you know what, maybe we should vote Democrat because everything we've been told was a lie, whether it's Epstein or No More Wars or America First or, any of these things, it becomes a problem for the president. I mean, he starts lashing out and saying, I am MAGA, MAGA is me. I'm not so sure about that anymore.
Julie, you just wrote a piece, your Salty Politics newsletter, by the way, which is excellent. Everybody should subscribe. I love what you do there. You don't pull punches. you punch. You punch.
Yeah.
You do say that you feel the tide is turning. MAGA is a cult of sorts, but you feel like maybe its life is going to be short-lived. Can you talk a little bit about what makes you say that? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily that it's short-lived, because it's been around a long time now. It's been around for over a decade, but I do think that the tide is turning. If you saw what happened in Texas this week, if you saw what happened in North Carolina this week, if you saw what happened in every special election since Trump got elected in 2024, you see that Democrats have overperformed tremendously. I mean, 200,000 more Democrats turned out in their primary in North Carolina than the Republican primary. You have vote by mail in almost 500,000 more vote by mail ballots being submitted in Texas for Democrats than for Republicans, even though both had very contested primaries. I mean, all of that is a sign, A, that Democrats will crawl over broken glass to vote this year. And Republicans are despondent, I guess is the word, right? For all the reasons we just said. They were promised no more wars. We're at war. They were promised the Epstein files release. No Epstein files. They were promised that suddenly magically they're going to be able to afford groceries and afford electricity and so on. None of that is happening. They were promised that Trump was going to get rid of the worst of the worst, and all of a sudden now he's pulling over anybody who potentially looks Latino. I mean, or black for that matter, because they might be from one of the shithole countries, as he called them.
Right.
And so therefore he doesn't think they should be here. I mean, so on and so forth. And so if you're MAGA, the only thing you have left is sticking it to the libs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason you still support Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's not on policy issues, because what's he doing that you like?
Yeah,
Nothing.
I agree with you. It's like the cheating boyfriend, but your girlfriend is telling you to break up with him, and and you're like, well, he wasn't with you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like right, they're so defensive right now that pay attention. Everything that you voted for, he's not doing that. We're at war. He promised you no wars.
If I may, it's like being a Jets fan.
Yes, it's like being a Jets fan.
Because you're basically just rooting for the jersey at this point, right? You're not rooting for a winning record.
No, it's the laundry. Yeah, you're rooting for the laundry.
You're rooting for the laundry, and that's what they're rooting for. They're rooting for the laundry. They're rooting for the guy with the R on his uniform, the elephant on his uniform.
There are
it's
studies,
not because they're delivering any wins or anything.
Right. There are studies that have shown that for people who have been pulled into a cult, right? And that's exactly what this is. It is a cult. It is much more difficult to convince them, even when all of the evidence tells you that you should be like pulling back or changing your mind. You're not going to be able to do it. If they bought the whole thing hook, line, and sinker, they're not giving up on it now.
Yeah. And I think part of that is that Trump said a lot of things out loud that they wanted to say for a long time, but couldn't. And I think part of that is that he stuck it to the libs, as I keep saying, which is what they thrived on. And you know this because you worked at Fox, and so did I. Like a lot of it was just like, let's see how much we could piss off the snowflakes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But who are the snowflakes now?
That's
right.
It.
You're right. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, it's snowing on them now.
Yeah.
Talking about snowflakes, Julie, just changing the subject just a little bit. Now, you mentioned that you did party with the war secretary when he was a weekend anchor on Fox.
To be clear, I would leave after one or two drinks.
All right, very good.
Right,
he would stay.
He'd stick around a little bit.
He'd be there till the end.
So I have to ask you this. I love watching you on CNN, the roundtable discussions. Do you and Scott Jennings, do you guys party a little bit, or is it what you see on the air is what you get?
It's interesting. Before the election this past year in 24, Scott Jennings was incredibly nice. And he was hedging his bets. He wasn't sure which way it was going to go.
Right.
He was trashing Trump off the record in the green room. But as soon as Trump won, he just transformed into a miserable human being.
Ooh.
Interesting.
What you see is what you get.
Wow. Much. Yeah. So what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So. So no. All right. So no cocktail parties with Scott Jennings.
We're not going to go out for drinks anytime soon.
All right. You're good. You know what? Yeah. He doesn't deserve your company. Put it to you that way.
Well, I would agree, but thank you.
Yep. Julie. You've been involved in New Jersey politics as well.
Yep.
Murphy, you were involved there. Now, have you been? The reason I'm asking this is Ian and I we interviewed pretty much all 12 of the candidates that ran for the 11th district here in New Jersey. There was a stunning upset, I guess, of sorts. Ian, the winner.
Yep. Ana Lilia Mejia.
Yes. Yep. Bernie Sanders. She worked with Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
She's a socialist of sorts.
Working Families Party.
Working Families Party. Yeah. Is this the new Democratic Party? Perhaps are we going to see more of this? What are your thoughts on her winning, and just in general the party, and that type of political philosophy?
So, just in full transparency, I ran the PAC for Tom Malinowski.
Great.
I obviously had a role to play in that race. She ran a fantastic race.
She did.
I mean, let's just be very clear. She ran a targeted, energized, energetic race. And she did a great job. And nobody should ever take that away from her. She was also helped, not directly, but inadvertently, by $4 million that was spent by AIPAC to kill Tom Malinowski and to prop up Tahisha Way. And again, I don't want to take that away from Ana Lilia. Right. As I said, she ran a fantastic race, but I think she would acknowledge herself that obviously that 1,000 vote difference between her and Malinowski came about not just because she ran a fantastic race, but also because millions and millions of dollars were spent on broadcast New York TV, in mailboxes, and on digital, just killing Malinowski.
Now, being that it was a special election, might it make sense for Tom to throw his hat back into the ring? You know, we got with another election coming up in November.
Oh, I don't know. That's a question you guys should ask him. I'm not. That is way above my pay grade.
Gotcha.
That is a question for him. But I will say, to her credit, as I said, she got into this race late. There were other people. There were some people who were running for Congress in this district for years, even before there was a vacancy. Anna Lilly got in late. She organized, she mobilized, and she did a great job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, there are some people here that are saying, well, it was she got 30% of the vote. One, ranked choice voting. What are your thoughts on that? I know that's become a big buzzword here in New Jersey, along parts of the rest of the country, I guess. But you know, when you're
I live in New York, and we have ranked choice voting here for municipal races, and I think it's great. I love it because at the end, you have somebody who was elected.
We do have
with the buy-in of most of the voters.
We do.
So nothing to do with the district, nothing to do with the race in the 11th. I think generally have come around as somebody who's lived in New York and has seen ranked choice voting. I've come around to why ranked choice voting is a good thing. And it also, it diminishes the negative campaigning to some extent. It allows people to work together to support each other, as you saw in New York with, Brad Lander and Mondani.
Right.
So I think there's definitely opportunities for people to have, I think, a more conducive kind of buy-in if you have ranked choice voting. So I'm all for it. I think it's going to happen eventually.
I do too. We do have a lot of Democratic Party, more activist people in the Democratic Party in New Jersey who are fighting for that right now. And I think we are starting to see in some internal Democratic politics more and more of that happening at the county level. Not in Essex County where we live yet, but we're working towards that.
Yeah. How does something like that? How does that become a law?
No, that's a good question. I don't know if there has to be an amendment to the Constitution, in which case the legislature would have to pass legislation to enable it to be on the ballot. But talk to your legislators.
Yep.
Or if they're not going to do it and you really believe in it, find legislators who will do it.
We've got Chagosier.
Julie, I was in the business many years, in broadcast news journalism business, and it's a tough business. I've seen women treated very unfairly, and once upon a time you might say it was the nature of the beast, but it really shouldn't be. Now you are the co-founder of Lift Our Voices.
Yep.
Which basically is kind of punching back again. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I created Lift Our Voices with my former Fox News colleague, Gretchen Carlson, in the wake of what happened to both of us at Fox News with Roger Ailes. But actually, my impetus was not so much getting involved because of that. My impetus was getting involved because of Phil Murphy. I had worked for Phil Murphy for many years. I had sherped his primary campaign to fruition. And then after I sued at Fox News, I had a bunch of young women on that campaign come to me and tell me they were being really mistreated by their campaign manager and by others. And so I spoke to Murphy about it, and he fired me for blowing the whistle. And after he did, he and his campaign effectively told me that I was bound by an NDA and I could not tell anybody what happened under any circumstances, which I thought was deeply unfair. And it became very, very deeply unfair when a young woman named Katie Brennan, who now is an assemblywoman, but back then was a campaign volunteer, called me about a year after the campaign was over to tell me that she said that she had been sexually assaulted and asked me for help. And I could not help her to the extent that I wanted to because Murphy's campaign was binding me to an NDA. And when that happened, I just said, this isn't this can't go on. And this law, this NDA, this is stupid. these laws should not exist. And since nobody else is going to get me out of this NDA, I will get myself out of this NDA, and I'm going to pass a law that's going to prevent NDAs from being able to do this to anybody else. And I did. I went to Washington and I worked my butt off. And Gretchen and I passed a law called the Speak Out Act. We passed another law called the Ending Forced Arbitration for Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act. But the one that I'm talking about here is the Speak Out Act that gets rid of pre-dispute NDAs for sexual misconduct, which means that the next time a Katie Brennan or somebody like that comes to somebody like me and says, this happened to me, she cannot be bound by an NDA. And as a potential witness to wrongdoing, I could not have been bound by an NDA. So I'm very, very proud of that law.
You should be.
Call it Murphy's Law behind the scenes, because he is the impetus for why it happened. But that is New Jersey. New Jersey has played a massive, massive role in the nation's history on many levels, and this is yet another reason and way that it did, because it was because of this instance in New Jersey that we were able to have I was able to quit everything else I was doing for a little while and make sure that this was not going to happen to anybody else ever again.
If I could ask Julie also, I know a part of the work that you've done, of course, is related to the non-disclosure agreements that people sign when they often work in these types of environments. But a part of it also was to fight against arbitration clauses as a way to address this. If you could explain to people who might not understand why an arbitration clause is harmful in this kind of context, I think that would be really helpful for our listeners.
Sure. Well, thank you for asking. It's a complicated issue. So people should know that most likely you are bound by an arbitration clause if you have a workplace agreement, or even a handbook, or even an email that you clicked on without knowing it, that you agreed to an arbitration clause. 82% of all American workers are bound by forced arbitration. What that means is that if you we got rid of it for sexual misconduct, but let's say you're discriminated against based on race or age or gender or, your sexual orientation, disability, any of the things that you're discriminated against potentially, and you go to HR and you complain about it, they will send you to arbitration. Right. What that means is it's a secret chamber. It is binding. It is decided by a arbitrator who's typically chosen by the company, paid by the company. It is in that arbitrator's interest to rule on behalf of the company, because he will get he or she, but it's typically he will get repeat business from the company. You're just one person, but the company will always send their people to you. So it's in your interest to rule on behalf of the company. And of all cases that can go to arbitration, only 2% do. And the reason for that is because of that 2%, only 2.5% result in any kind of financial compensation for the complainant. Which means that if you are discriminated against at work, you're pretty much out of luck. Like, don't even bother.
Right.
And you don't have your day in court. You don't have your, constitutional right to trial by a jury of your peers. It is a deeply troubling phenomenon that is unfortunately an American phenomenon. This does not happen anywhere else in the world. And it was done originally to unclog the courts, but it's gotten to the point where it's just used non-stop to try to prevent people from asserting any kind of rights at work. And it's awful, and we're going to get rid of it. We got rid of it for sexual misconduct, and we're not going to stop until we get rid of it for everything.
Good for you.
If you want to go to arbitration, God bless. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but it's your decision. But it should be your decision. It should not be foisted on you. And if it was so good, why is it called forced arbitration?
Right.
Not be forced.
Absolutely. I was, again, at Fox News. I sat next to Gretchen Carlson for years in the morning because I worked early. She worked early, obviously, when she was co-hosting Fox and Friends. Very nice woman. Never really worked with her directly, then how you doing? Good morning. It's early. Is it coffee brewing?
Right.
I didn't realize I was sitting next to a hero. She's a hero, and so are you, because
I was going to say we have one on with us right now.
Because again, and for instance, I know you've lift our voices, Julie. You're asking men must call out men for misogyny. I mean, you know, again, you're saying, guys, everybody. This is not just a woman problem. This is a world problem. And
but we can't solve this without men. I think that's really important to note, right? Like, men still run most things in this country. And I'm the mother of a son. Like, I want to make sure that I raise a man who's going to be a good man. And this is not about calling men out for misogyny. Most men are not misogynist. Most men are good men. I think the key is that men have to understand this is not just a problem for women, it's a problem for men too. Men are bound by forced arbitration just as, I mean, maybe not just as much as women are, but at pretty high rates. The majority of men are still bound by arbitration. And that goes from the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies all the way down to somebody who's, cleaning bedpans.
Yes.
Truly, I mean, this is a problem that affects everybody, including men in this country, including white men in this country. And so it's just, I think, something for people to consider and to understand that you should demand better. And you don't think it's ever going to happen to you until it does.
Right.
But it will, because it happens to so many of us. Look, when I went to work at Fox News, I was thrilled. I mean, I didn't think anything bad was going to happen to me when I went to work. Listen, I have been very blessed in my career. I have worked for many people, and almost to that exception, they've all been fantastic people. And when you go and take a new job somewhere, you do not think something bad is going to happen to you, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'll use Governor Murphy as an example. I was the first person on his campaign. I mean, truly, I hired all the people who then went on to work for him. And I believed in him tremendously. Not only did I not think anything bad was going to happen to me when I worked for him, I would have laughed anybody out of the room who would have thought he was a bad guy, until he turned out to be a really bad guy. And until, I turned out to have had many problems because of something that I did, which was basically to speak up against a really toxic environment that was happening in his campaign. And so again, I tell you that story not to belabor a guy who's, run off into the sunset and hopefully we'll never see him in New Jersey again. But I tell that story so that people understand, if it could happen to somebody who was a really powerful person on the campaign of the next governor of New Jersey, if it could happen to somebody at Fox News who was an on-air personality, and you think, well, wait a second, she was really high profile, wouldn't people be kind of afraid to harass her? Like, the reality is it happens to all of us. It happens to anybody, everybody, all the time.
Julie, I can't thank you enough for coming on the Lee and Ian show.
Yes, we really appreciate it, Julie.
All the time you spent with us, we've learned so much. And it's, again, Julie Roginsky, the great Julie Roginsky, has been with us for the last 40 minutes, sharing her thoughts on Iran, her thoughts on her career, her thoughts on just about everything. You are an open book, Julie, and we can't thank you enough.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm really, really grateful to you. Love Essex County, and always happy to come and talk to Essex guys anytime.
We'll bring you back again.
Yeah, it's just, other than the taxes, we love Essex County too. So,
you guys have a great zoo. Come on,
we do
have a great zoo. That is absolutely
those taxes pay for something.
And we have a new governor too here in New Jersey. So we are,
from Essex. Yes,
that's right.
She's from Montclair.
That's right. Great. Yeah, she's one of us. So Julie Roginsky, again, thank you so much. And Ian, I guess we'll call it a day.
I guess we'll call it a day.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Julie, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good night, and we'll do it again soon.
Good night.
Thanks very much. Bye.